Nehemiah came from God's city, but lived in a country far away. Nehemiah heard that God's people were letting God's city decay. Nehemiah thinks God to rebuild, to make God's city safe and sound, and get the holes in the city gates and walls refilled, to keep out God's enemies all around. But when the job's too big for one, remember, when you're a team for God, then God's a member. Nehemiah was the king's wine waiter, a very high-powered position. So when Nehemiah decided to go, they needed the king's permission. So he prayed and he prayed and he came to the king and said, "Can I go rebuild my city?" And the king said, "Of course, take my army, my horse, but to lose such a waiter, such a pity." So Nehemiah came safely home and gave God's people this instruction: get your families together, get ready, get set to work up a sweat in some holy construction. When the job's too big for one, remember, when you're a team for God, then God's a member. He said, one team mend the valley gate, a second team mend the east gate. Walls higher, Nehemiah, let's rebuild God's city together. Third team mend the water gate, a fourth team mend the horse gate. Walls higher, Nehemiah, rebuilding God's city together. Clay and straw, sand and water, mix them together. Bricks and mortar, row upon row upon row upon row. Teamwork is working, watch the walls grow. Fifth team mend the sheep gate, the sixth team mend the dung gate. Whoa, what? The dung gate poo, rebuilding God's city together. The seventh team mend the fountain gate, and eighth team mend the fish gate. Walls higher, Nehemiah, rebuilding God's city together. The ninth team mend the silver gate, the 10th team mend the golden gate. Walls higher, Nehemiah, rebuilding God's city together. Surrounded by God's enemies, they finished off their masterpiece. Nehemiah said, remember, when you're a team for God, then God's a